expression that the Bible uses about humility is the poor in spirit. So we find that in the Beatitudes, or the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus says, in the first instance, the first Beatitude is, blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for this is the kingdom of heaven. So when he lists the secret to a happy life, the first one that he mentions is poor in spirit or humility. Humility is the first step to happiness in our life. That is the first step. If there is misery in someone's life, one of the biggest reasons they will lack that happiness or have that misery in their life is because of this pride. So poor in spirit, if you ever get confused when you're reading the Beatitudes, we're reading the Agpeya, and it refers to poor in spirit, but sometimes the expression seems to be confusing. But what it's pretty much referring to is humility. So pride is about having an overly exaggerated or inflated sense of self-worth or self-importance. Everything's exaggerated for a person who is really proud. And this is what we mean by pride. And humility is about always being conscious of your own poverty. Hence the term poor in spirit. What I lack, my own poverty, and lacking character, shortcomings, challenges, limitations, and flaws. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who realize, know, acknowledge, are aware of their poverty in spirit. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Instead of being full of self or ego, I possess a lowly or humble sense of myself. I know where I really stand. And I've titled this thing, The Great Wall of Pride. Instead of the Great Wall of China, we've got this Great Wall of Pride. What does that mean? That pride is like a wall, like a barrier. It's in front of every single good thing that I want in my life. Every single happiness in my life, there's some kind of wall of pride that's standing there that I need to smash and get over. To be able to grab that happiness in my life, to be able to grab that blessings in my life that I really want. And what are some of these things? Pride is never able to say I'm sorry. It is so hard, so difficult for a proud person to say I'm sorry. They seem like such simple words. But actually saying them, a lot of times can be so difficult. To be able to approach someone, to apologize for something, whether you are wrong or not. Pride is unable to admit I was wrong. Another really difficult thing. Seems like really simple terms. Really simple expressions. But for some reason they come so hard. And this is the greatest training that I can do for myself. To train myself. To have that humility to say I'm sorry. To say I'm wrong. Or I was wrong. It's a really difficult task to do. This is how really difficult humility can be. How really easy it is to be proud. How difficult we find it to say I'm sorry. How difficult we find it to say I was wrong. Whether in expression or even in behavior. Sometimes, it's really hard to say the words, but you know what? Sometimes I don't need to say the words. Sometimes I can kind of like do something to show, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just so proud I can't say the words, but look, I'm trying to make amends. Trying to, as difficult it is because I'm so proud, to say sorry by doing this thing, this nice thing for you. Cleaning up after you, by serving you, by doing something nice for you. Pride is unable to forgive. So even when I'm not saying sorry now, someone is coming up to me and saying sorry to me, trying to apologize to me, sometimes I'm so proud that I can't forgive that person. No, do you know what you did to me? Do you know how much you hurt me? Do you know what you've done? No, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't accept your apology. Pride sees a person as potential competition rather than a potential friend. Every person I come across, I'm eyeing them, I'm looking them up and down, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, is this person good news or bad news? What if that person was not competition? That person could be my next best friend. Why do we always look at the darker side? Why do we always look at the negative side? What's the worst about that person rather than the best about that person? Pride only sees the bad in others rather than the good. Pride seeks every opportunity to advance self rather than others. Pride is unable to ask for help or support. I'm so absorbed in myself that I cannot bring myself to another person to say, I need your help. That would show weakness. Pride wants to be served by others, whereas humility wants to serve others. Pride wants always others to do things for them. Always expects of others to do things for them. Humility is the complete opposite. What can I do for you? How can I serve you? How can I help? How can I do something? Pride is unable to love because it's too busy loving itself. One of the greatest struggles that a person with pride will have, and we all have this in our life, is that they will never be able to love fully or be loved fully. Is that constant wall of pride that's always in the way of being able to love. It's always stopping you from grabbing that. And that's one thing we know that every human being needs, looking for, searching for love. And the one thing that's always stopping me from grabbing that and embracing that fully is that pride. A lot of times people who have this pride, they're holding on to something. They can't let go. And what do I need to let go? There are things in my life that I need to let go of. I need to ask myself, what do I need to let go of? I don't need to be the preeminent one. The one that always stands out. I don't need to be the one that always stands out. I don't need to be the one that has the last say. I don't always have to have an answer or retort to everything that's said. I don't have to. Someone says something I disagree with, I don't have to have a comeback. I don't need to be the center of attention. I don't need to be the best looking. I don't need to have the best car or best house. It doesn't always have to be my way. I don't need to know everything. I will never be able to know everything. Maybe others can contribute something I didn't know, wasn't mindful of, didn't think of, hadn't paid attention to. Maybe it's just possible that I don't know everything and someone else can tell me something that I didn't know or wasn't aware of. I don't need to always be right. I can accept that sometimes I can be wrong. It's okay if others disagree with me. We can disagree and still be best of friends and still love each other very much. And we can disagree. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. I don't need to always be the one in control. Okay to let go of that control. One of the biggest reasons people have conflicts in life because they always feel like they've got to be in control. Even if the other way is not correct or the best. Even if it's not correct or the best. I'm convinced 100% that this is not right, it's going to fail, whatever. I don't need to worry about an offended ego, honor, or dignity. I can let go of embarrassment, insult, or offense. And this is the beauty of humility. How peaceful would it be to know and live all of this? I can let go of all that stuff. I don't need to hold on to any of that. Someone offended me, someone insulted me, someone has a different opinion than me. Okay, so I'm not in control. What's most important? All of those things, well, that I'm at peace. A proud person will never have peace. One of the most beautiful gifts that a humble person will always have is that peace. They'll always be at peace. Because they're not holding on to all of these other expectations and requirements and standards and things like that. Every sin in my life has as its source some form of pride lurking in the background. I can think of any sin in my life and behind it is pride. And any virtue has humility as its source and foundation. So if I want to grow in any virtue, any good deed, I need to start with this foundation of humility. And the Fathers teach us that humility is the mother of all virtues. So just like pride is the source of all sin or all evil, humility is the mother of all virtues. That's where it starts. From a humble disposition. Ultimately, I cannot be happy without it. I cannot be happy without humility. In actual fact, the first step to bliss and happiness is a disposition of humility. Every good thing in my life is a fruit of humility. Can't have peace without humility. Faith, hope, joy, serenity, meekness, friendship, family, community. That's where it all starts. Humility. Most importantly, I can't have love without humility. Can't have love. To have love, the greatest of virtues, I need the greatest amount of humility. Love is the greatest of virtues. I need the greatest amount of humility to be able to support that love. And I'll never be able to reach the depth of that love without that greatest level of humility. My love that I always will have will always be a superficial type. If I do not have humility behind it to back it. The deeper my humility, the deeper my love. It's the first step on my journey towards heaven. Humility. That's why he says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And that's why that's the first beatitude that he mentioned, because it's the first step to heaven. It's the foundation. And this is where I begin, and this is where I build everything else upon it. We look at God. God himself is a humble God. He's our example, ultimate exemplar of humility. Ultimate example of humility. In his condescension to humanity, in his life of poverty, in his crucifixion, torture and abuse, in his continued forbearance towards man's insults, offense and rebellion. And despite everything we do, despite all of our sins, despite rebelling against God, and despite our going against God, in his humility, he still looks towards mankind, and he still says, I still love you. The greatest level of humility, the greatest level of love. Despite everything around you, that you can still love a person despite their flaws, despite their shortcomings, despite everything. But it takes a lot of humility to be able to still say, I still love that person. Pride is the cause of wars, violence, and murders. How many of today's wars are due to proud dictators who simply refuse to relinquish their power, negotiate, or compromise? Pride is the cause of so much pain and suffering in the world. Pride is the cause of crime, abuse, and exploitation. Pride is the cause of broken marriages and families. Pride is the cause of divided churches and communities. So it's not something that's exclusive to outside the church. Even inside the church, a lot of times we suffer from pride, and it's something that we need to be wary of. Pride is the cause of endless arguments, debates, and contentions. Pride is the cause of a relentless, simmering anger in people's hearts and our inability to find peace. Pride is the cause of our inability to turn to each other for help and support. And one of the things that you really find in the Bible is this really powerful expression in the Bible. One thing God hates is pride. And it comes out so powerful. God hates pride. It comes out again and again. You don't really find that similar kind of expression with any other sin. So it says in Jeremiah, for example, I am against you, O most haughty one. So haughty is just an English expression for proud. It's another word for proud. O most proud one, says the Lord God of hosts. Everyone proud in heart is an abomination to the Lord. Your eyes are on the haughty or proud, that you may bring them down. You will bring down haughty or proud looks. The one who has a haughty or proud look and a proud heart, him I will not endure. A man's pride will bring him low. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty or proud spirit before a fall. Before destruction, the heart of man is haughty or proud. Those of high stature will be hewn down, and the haughty or proud will be humbled. The most proud shall stumble and fall, no one will raise him up. I will kindle a fire in his cities, and I will devour all around. Many who are first will be last, and the last first. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled. God resists the proud. Something I need to realize as well is pride is not restricted to a certain few people. We all have some measure of it hidden in the various recesses of our heart, soul, and mind. Some more than others. My job is to train myself in greater levels of humility. How can I train myself to be a more humble person? How can I express myself with people around me to be more humble? And the question I have to ask myself is, how is pride affecting my life? How is pride there in my life? What can I do differently to get rid of that pride in my life, to be a more humble person? How can I exercise humility a little bit better here? And it extends to everyone, from the patriarch to the bishop, to the priest, to the servant, to you guys. Everyone needs to be able to do it. In my family, at home, at work, as a manager, as an employee, as a colleague, whatever I am. How can I be a more humble person at my task that I'm doing? What humility is not. Because some people have maybe a bit of a skewed concept of what humility is. It's not weakness. It's not allowing yourself to be exploited, abused, or taken advantage of. It's not about lacking self-confidence or self-esteem. There is absolutely nothing wrong with being a confident, bold, and daring person. In actual fact, I expect nothing less from a well-grounded and centered Christian. It's not about not being able to be proud of your achievements. You can be proud of your achievements and accomplishments. There's nothing wrong with that. Pride is about having an overly exaggerated or inflated sense of self-importance. It's exaggerated. It's inflating what you have. There is nothing wrong with acknowledging where you are now and where you've come from and being grateful for that. Being proud of something is simply recognizing a reality without exaggeration, inflation, or pretension. It's not about not being assertive, bold, and courageous when necessary. It's not about holding your head down in shame, being a loner, or socially awkward. It's not about avoiding all pleasures, benefits, rewards, honors, praises, or leisure. So that's what humility is not. You find humility exemplified throughout the whole Bible. And the greatest example of humility that we have is Christ himself. Christ himself, and one of the beautiful things that we have in this picture here as well. And it's so beautiful. You can just watch or look at a picture like this, and you can be absorbed into it. That this is humility. This is humility. Christ washing his disciples' feet. If I then, your Lord and Master, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you also should do as I have done. So what is Jesus saying here? This is humility, that I serve others. He's saying, do you want to know what humility is? It is serving others. So this is what he's saying here. You know that the rulers of the pagans lorded over them, and their great men exercise authority over them. It shall not be so among you, but whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be your slave. Even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom. So here, this is really important. Jesus introduces a revolutionary concept. You know, maybe we're so accustomed to be talking about humility now, it doesn't really stand out to us so much. But he enters a time, and he says, okay, you know what the pagans are doing? You know, everyone wants to be the king. Everyone wants to be the ruler. Everyone wants to be the greatest. And then Christ comes into the picture and he says, that's not greatness. You want to know what really greatness is? That you serve your fellow man. That is the ultimate form of greatness. He flips things on its head. That's revolutionary. A concept that they weren't used to. something that didn't really exist during that time. It was about looking after myself and seeking myself first and building up myself and getting as much possessions and being the biggest that I can, the wealthiest I can. You want to be the greatest? You'll be the least of all. You'll be the one that's always serving. You'll be the one that's always giving. That's the ultimate form of greatness. He introduces a revolutionary concept into Christianity. This is where Christianity can stand out and say, we've introduced something different into the world. The world is saying to me, pursue greatness, pursue this, wealth and possessions and everything as much as you can. Stand out and be the biggest you can. Christ says it's not about that. It's not about all the trappings and what's on the outside and appearance. It's about something a lot more deeper than that. In the New Testament, do nothing from selfishness or conceit, but in humility count others better than yourself. Abraham says, I'm just dust and ashes. Great example of humility. Even though he was chosen by God, but he retained this humility. Moses, despite being chosen by God and leading this whole people out, he had this amazing humility. The Bible tells us that there was no one on earth as meek as Moses. And when people came out and started to receive a gift of prophesying, his disciples would come to him and say, Moses, tell them to stop. You're our only prophet. He says, no, I wish everyone was a prophet. I don't want to be distinguished. I don't want to be different from anyone else. I wish God gave that gift to everyone. What an amazing amount of humility to have. You think a person, wants that, thinks they're different, I'm distinguished from everyone else, I'm going to hold on to that. Yeah, tell them to stop. I'm the leader. There's no one else besides me. No one else has this gift, this right. I can only have it. No, it's an amazing thing in the Bible that really stands out, and he says, I wish everyone had it. He was not offended at all. David goes through all of this turmoil in his life and gets cursed. And despite being the king and being surrounded by soldiers, he says about himself, who am I? I'm a dead dog on a flea. He calls himself a dog. He's the king, the most powerful man in the country, referring to himself as a dog. He sees his true self. He sees his shortcomings. Someone who sees what he really is. What am I? I'm so small. In the big scheme of things, I am so small. I'm a worm, he refers to himself. St. John the Baptist, very similar as well. Here he comes, everyone's coming around him, flocking to John the Baptist. He has all of this popularity, this fame, and all of a sudden Jesus rocks up on the scene. And you think, competition. That's what most people would see it as. He's my competition. I need to up my game or something. Not for St. John the Baptist. He must increase, I must decrease. It's great. I think it's great that God has sent someone to be able to do something good. I see the good in that. I don't see the negative, I don't see the competition, I see the good in that. There's a beautiful story about St. Gregory the theologian. So we know St. Gregory the theologian, he was the bishop of Nazianzus. And then because of his strong faith and his defense of the faith, they took him to meeting the patriarch of Constantinople. And all these people got up, and people that were like, oh no, look at the book says you shouldn't do this, and this is wrong, and he felt that it was causing him so much hassles and so much problem. And then he writes in his autobiography, and this is what he says. Let me be as the prophet Jonah. I was responsible for the storm, but I would sacrifice myself for the salvation of the ship. Seize me and throw me. I was not happy when I ascended the throne, gladly would I descend. If it meant him leaving his position for the peace of the church, so that people wouldn't be divided, to stop all the arguments and the problems, he was happy to do it. It didn't mean anything to him. That's humility. These are just some rewards and benefits of humility. So psychologists have done research about humility. A person who's maybe a little bit more arrogant in terms of their predisposition in life, and a person who's a little bit more humble in terms of their awareness of themselves. And this is some of the things that they've discovered. Humble people are less anxious. So they're less anxious in life. Proud people are constantly on edge. Better leaders, because they liked and listened to their team. Better employees, open to instruction and liked by others. Have better self-control, ensuring greater success. Get better scores if they have a more humble opinion of their abilities and the preparation they need to undertake. Less prejudice due to a lowered sense of self-entitlement. Better relationships as they are more accepting and less critical of others. A greater positive outlook on the world due to being more understanding and less critical. So just overall, humble people tend to be a lot more positive and a lot more accepted in society in general. A lot more happier. Thanks for listening and thanks for participating.